Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in internet shitlords. And today I want to make a video that isn't going to be... Okay, this is not actually going to be covering something about wokeness in the new three big one D&D books. But it is going to actually be an almost more perfect example of why the rot in Wizards of the Coast is so damaging. Okay. But before I get to that, check out just a few of my best-selling books here. You got The Invisible College, the modern occult espionage intrigue / RPG that has you playing magical secret agents in a world where there's a secret war for the fate of humanity. The Social Encounters book, it says Along the Silk Road there, but it's actually, you can use Social Encounters in any OSR game as a way of expanding the reaction roll rules to let you cover a whole bunch of different situations where you would be having social interactions with other characters in a way that isn't just about rolling a skill check and getting to automatically win or lose or something like that, but rather that requires the role-playing and the way you role-play to affect the game. That's a gold bestseller, by the way, and it's a small book, but it was very popular because I think a lot of people are looking for those kind of guidelines, like how do you, as a DM, judge when a player is engaging in a debate or in haggling or in trying to intimidate someone or all kinds of things like that in an OSR game. That's going to be the answer for you. And of course, the Old School Companion 1, the original Old School Companion. It has all kinds of supplementary material for any OSR game, of course, for including Lion and Dragon. Oh, there goes Meatball. She's looking very thin lately. I'm a bit worried about her. Yeah, yeah, I'm a bit worried about you. She's lost a bit of weight. She's a very old lady. You guys have to understand that. But she's doing okay, I guess. She hasn't been eating quite as much as she used to. Anyway, the Old School Companion is full of magical systems based on the Middle Ages, monsters, character options, new character classes, treasures, court events, aristocratic activities, high-level activities for your characters, all with a medieval authentic bent. So be sure to check out any of these or any of my other products, including my now completed periodical series RPG Pundit Presents, which you can find on Drive-Thru, and the Pundit Files. RPG Pundit Presents has, I think, 110 issues, if I'm remembering correctly. The Pundit Files, which is currently on issue 23, I believe it is, which is the Feast of the Circumcision, an exciting adventure. By the way, a lot of people have commented on that title, and I want you to understand, because I think I better mention this, there is... The Feast of the Circumcision is the medieval term for New Year's Day, for January the 1st, okay? There was no real celebration of it as New Year's. It was celebrated as part of the Christmas season as the date of Christ's circumcision, right? And that's why it's called that. It doesn't actually have any real circumcisions happening in the adventure, okay? That's not what it's about. There is, however, a baby that's in danger, and the PCs have to try to rescue it from evil people because of its potential sinister, dark ritual. But be sure to check out that adventure. It's for Baptism of Fire, but easily adaptable to any other kind of setting and game. And check out all the other issues of the Pundit Files, which are available only at the Red Room, and every single issue costs just $3.50. Someone can get you $3.50. You can buy an issue of the Pundit Files. Okay, so D&D, the new edition of the... I mean, they're still trying to call it 5th edition. 1 D&D, I guess, is what I've been calling it. That's what they originally claimed it was going to be called. It's been written by idiots. It's like a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury and signifying nothing, right? Like everything that they've done and everything that they've changed is just unbelievably abysmally worse than before, right? I've already covered with you their safety tools derived from BDSM stuff, that they have added to the game. I've already covered that they've represented Greyhawk in a way that isn't particularly good and that is full of, DEI changes. But today I'm going to give a much more mundane, concrete example, because a lot of you are probably thinking at this point, well, you know what? I mean, that those are stupid. Let's say you admit that those are bad things that have happened in what I've already covered before. But they're like, well, we're not gonna do those things. They're not something that we would ever use. So we're not going to apply it. You know, we'll just keep playing Greyhawk the Old Man. We'll just keep doing this. We won't have any safety tools because we never use the safety tools, right? But so what's the matter? We don't really care, right? It's not like it's affecting a concrete mechanic of the game. All right. Well, here is an example of where the concrete mechanics get affected. So the new DMG has chase rules. So rules for trying to catch someone and someone else trying to get away. A very ancient thing in D&D. It's been around since, I think, old D&D. Certainly first edition D&D had it. There were rules for it in the basic expert D&D, second edition, I think. I don't remember if third edition had explicit chase rules or not, but anyways, it's something that is very common, a mechanic that has been around for a long while, because sometimes the player characters have to run away, or sometimes something runs away from the player characters and you want to know, can they catch it? So, a useful thing to have. There have been many different versions of chase rules in the course of the history of the D&D hobby. The chase rules here, however, are very special. These are the only chase rules where there is that I know of anyways, where there's a real chance that your character could just drop dead from, cardiac arrest after about a minute, less than a minute of trying to run after someone. So apparently, I guess maybe that's like a reflective of the new reality, right? That they're like these, morbidly obese, blue-haired women that if they had to run for more than 30 seconds would be at a risk of severe heart failure or something. I guess that's possible, and that they're just like reflecting their own reality in this. But in practice, these are terrible, terrible rules. And the reason that they're terrible rules is because the person who wrote them has no idea what they're doing. They are clearly not in any way a skilled game designer. They're not someone who's familiar with game design at all. They're just marginally, they're probably someone who may have played some D&D, but they have no idea how, that's one of the problems is, and you see this all the time in indie games, so let's point this out, right? That there are tons of people who have been like, I've been playing D&D in 2 different editions for 3 years now, and I know everything about it, so I could make my own RPG, right? And then they try to make their own RPG, and they think it's going to make them $1 million. Some of them do, and then it doesn't, and then it turns out that it sucks. Game design is a very complex. It's a very complex skill. Takes a lot of experience to get better and better at it, right? And there's clearly no one with experience doing these rules. Okay. So what happened is that they decided that they wanted to have a set of chase rules, and what happens in a chase? So in a chase, you're running, the other guy's running after you, and you have to watch out for obstacles and things like that. You have to figure out how fast you can go, how much you can push yourself, and then you have to avoid getting winded or not, being able to continue. So the person said, okay, well, so what I'm doing is I'm running after people. This guy's running, that guy's running, everybody's running. So part of the mechanics should be to see if one of them gets, tired before the other and manages to, and the other guy manages to get away, right? So what are we going to use? Oh, look, there's this thing. I don't know what it is. It's called Exhaustion Rules. I've never used it. I barely played 5th edition, right? So I'm just gonna take that, right? That makes sense. And they looked at it for 2 seconds. Thought, yeah, sure, that's good enough, right? Yeah, that makes sense. It's something already there. These nerds will know what it's for. I'm gonna finish this right away and go back to writing vegan cookbooks. And so the rule became that every round, remember, a round is 6 seconds. Every round, after a certain number of rounds, your character, I believe it's after the 3rd round of running or something like that, which is, again, 18 seconds of running, right? After the first 18 seconds of running, your character has to start making checks, saving throws basically, to avoid generating levels of exhaustion, okay, from these exhaustion rules, right? Now, I had a part in looking at and in making some of the details of or in the making of some of these elements of the exhaustion rules and some of the other things that were on the back, like the conditions that were in the back of the original 5th edition DMG. And I had tried very hard. In particular, one of the things that I did was I pushed very hard and got the consolidation of a whole bunch of these conditions into more simple conditions, right? Because in the original, when we were working on it, this was one of the things that somebody was a big 3E fan, I guess, or something, and they wanted to have a million different conditions, right? And I said, look, we want dare to simplify. That was my motto every moment that we were working on 5E. I said, we want to try to reduce this to the minimum number of conditions. So if any two conditions, if one condition can replace another, we're going to change that, right? And so we were doing all that. And then the exhaustion rules are something that I thought was fantastic. I wasn't the architect of it, I'll point that out, right? But I did fight to have it in there. The exhaustion rules, I saw right away that there are other things that you can use it for besides exhaustion, right? But the exhaustion rules in the original 5e are meant to represent when a character is either unable to get adequate rest or food or water. I mean, there's also starvation rules and that, but it's basically suffering from something that is gradually debilitating them, right? So it's like the idea is when you're like having to trek through a forest or trek through a desert, let's say, and you're trying to keep going while suffering deprivations of some kind. That was the core idea. But for example, something that I've played with using in my own gameplay, using the 5e exhaustion rules or something very similar to them, is having it as effects of attacks from incorporeal creatures, right? Like that when they hit you, that you're gradually suffering these kind of exhaustion-like effects as a or not incorporeal, but rather undead creatures, as an effect of their attacks of the undead. That is, in this case, it's permanent unless healed magically, right? So it's like those sort of wounds that you're supposed to receive there, where you become lessened by the presence of an encounter with an undead, right? That's awesome stuff. There's lots of stuff you can do with those exhaustion rules. What the exhaustion rules are not meant to cover is a fast-paced, short-term chase. Okay, and the guy decided he didn't even bother to either he read, I don't know what would be worse. Did he read the exhaustion rules and had no idea what it was talking about and therefore said, I'll just do it? Or did he not even bother to read it? Would he have noticed what his terrible flaw was if he had bothered to read it? I'm not sure. It's not clear to me at all. Regardless, the point is that he set up a situation where after X number of rounds, you have to both play, and it's not a lot of rounds, like three rounds, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's in the first 18 seconds, right? After that number of rounds, anybody who's still trying to run to escape in the chase or to pursue in the chase have to do a exhaustion check. An exhaustion check is not going to be extremely rare. Certainly not for lower level characters, right? Because it's like, what is it? It's a DC 10, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly. Which means that obviously, if a person gets to add their proficiency bonus, if they're relatively tough, they're going to have a more than 50% chance of succeeding, but they're not going to be at a negligible chance, right? You are going to start getting, even a character of relatively higher level is going to start getting exhaustion levels very quickly in the chase, right? And there's only 6 levels essentially. The 6th level is you're dead, right? You die of exhaustion at the 6th level of exhaustion. So that means that these idiots have invented chase rules where after about, I think the minimum, Taylor Lane anyways, looked at this and came to the calculation that after 54 seconds is the minimum time where theoretically a player character might drop dead in a chase, right? From running for less than a minute, they die. That can happen in this game, apparently. That is the way that the mechanic has been set up. So this shows you the level of idiocy that these people have. And of course, it's related to the corporate culture. It's related to the wokeness. It's related to the fact that the people in charge now, none of them have any ties to D&D, right? So these are people that were essentially diversity hires. And speaking of which, I will remind you that section, those chase rules, they were very carefully read, apart from the publisher, and I presume the editor, and the original author. They were read by at least 3 different people. Every word in those chase rules were analyzed by 3 different people, all of whom have the job, the biggest, I guess it's the biggest single job in the offices of Wizards of the Coast. Unless there's just the same 3 people doing it everywhere. I guess that could be true. But anyways, those 3 people are the diversity officers who Wizards of the Coast has made the promise that that every single word in every D&D book is going to be looked at by 3 different diversity commissars to make sure that there is nothing that is contrary to woke ideology in any of their products. Okay? So there all those people, every one of those people I've mentioned have looked at these rules. Not one of them had the slightest idea that there was anything wrong with them, right? None of them cared, none of them understood the game, none of them probably knew the rule. So that was it. What they didn't have is anyone who had the slightest understanding of game design ever look at that section. That's the reality of what the new D&D core books are going to be about, right? So there's still going to be some good stuff in there, but the only good stuff is going to be stuff that they just left untouched from the 2014 edition. Everything else that they're going to put in there is going to be trash, even if it's not explicitly woke propaganda like these chase rules. There's nothing in these chase rules that are in any way woke, but they're still a damaged goods product of that woke ideology being the overall guiding force of the entire project and the entire company. That's the problem. All right, so that's everything for today. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share it with people. The more you can share it, the better. It's very hard. I'm not typically one of the people who is promoted by the algorithms of YouTube. So if you can share the video on your social media, even if you think your social media is very small, but if it's possible for you, whether you think it'll be somewhere that people might find it interesting or somewhere that people will get really mad at it, right? Unless I'm not asking that they get mad at you. So if you've got a problem, if that's your worry, then I understand. But otherwise, if you can be brave, and it's so much easier to be brave these days now, right? Share my videos. And also check out all my products besides stuff like the Invisible College, Social Encounters, and the Old School Companion. There's tons of other stuff like the incredible Baptism of Fire, which has been one of the bestsellers of the year. And of course, Lion and Dragon and Dark Albion and Star Adventure and The World of Last Sun and so many other things. The list and links of all my products are in the description below this video. Check them out. You're going to find stuff that you're going to love to use in your games if you're a gamer. Some things that you might just love to read if you're a history buff, right? Like, the Heroes and Villains of the Silk Road, for example, which is a book of biographies of famous characters, real people of the time period between 1190 and 1220 in the area of the Silk Road from like Damascus to China. So you can check that out. It's got, of course, all the stats for him and lots of other stuff. But even if you don't play anymore, just reading that as a history book is interesting. All right, so that's everything for today. Currently smoking. This is a Lorenzetti Poker plus Argento Roots.